Hi everybody, and welcome once again to Hospitality Marketing. Tonight we're going to talk about Chapter 6, which is Information Systems. Now, I tell you, this is kind of a crazy chapter. There's a whole lot of information in it. But I want to break down some of the very basic and I think the most important parts. And to begin with, you have to ask yourself, why is it so important that we collect data? You imagine, just on a small scale, when you have your little restaurant or your little hotel, how difficult it is to target market to the people that you really want. We talked about in the previous chapters about trying to target market, get those people that are really our kind of customers. Well, how do we find those people? Where do we get the information that tells us where that target market is? What's the best way to approach them and reach them? The best way to get them in? We have to find a way to collect this information. So, and it sounds fairly simple, but it's one of the biggest problems companies have out there. And like I said, this is a very complicated chapter, but we're going to look at some of the key things here. Big thing right off the bat is that you need to understand why is it important for companies to collect data. Keeping your customers happy, attracting new customers, making plans to put out new product, all those things require you to be very knowledgeable about your customer base or your potential customer base. So one of the things we're going to look at, or the chapter talks about, is the media habits of target market. So let me ask you, how many of the people in this class listen to the regular AM or FM radio station anymore? I would bet, due to the age of this class, most of the people in it do not listen to the regular radio station. They're listening to the MP3s, they're listening to Pandora, or one of those other things, or like me, where I listen to CDs all the time. So if you're going to market your restaurant to a very young clientele target market, would you be advertising on regular AM radio? Probably not. And so that's why we're always looking for ways to get data on where our customers are and the best way to reach them. So the definition in the book on information marketing systems: the structure of people, equipment, procedures used to gather, analyze, and distribute information used by an organization to make a decision. Now you notice they've got a lot of different things in there. The equipment, people, procedures. It's not just one component where we can get all the data we want, potentially, but does that mean we have the people or the equipment to analyze it, and vice versa? So this is a total concept for a company to get behind. The book goes on to talk about some things that make a well-designed information marketing system. The first one starts off: a structured organization or established system of procedures. So in other words, you've got to have rules in place. You've got to have a system down, and you've got to follow it pretty much every time to see if it's going to give you the data you want. The problem with going in and not having something established or changing on a regular basis, you may not know what's working. So you have to complete it to make sure that it's going to give you the data you want. Then it should have a continuous and accurate flow of information. So a lot of the times when we're looking for data, it happens over a long term. So if we just look at a moment in history, if you will, it will give us some information, but it may not mean anything, and it may not be accurate for what we're looking for. So when we get long-term data, that's what we're looking for. It's kind of like forecasting, which we've talked about in other classes. When you do forecasting, you look at a one day in time, and you see that you sold 50 sandwiches. What does that mean? But if you look at a year's worth of data and you see that every Wednesday you sell 50 sandwiches, that gives you some information you can work from. Next, you need to be able to gather information both inside and outside of your organization. Why is that important? Well, obviously if you're running, say, a restaurant, you want information from your current customers. Why did they come there? What do they spend? What do they like, what they don't like? And that's an important thing because they're your customers. But we also have to gather information from outside the organization because we're trying to attract more people to get them to come in. And finally, it compiles data that is actually usable by management for marketing purposes. So you can get all kinds of data. But if it doesn't really pertain to what you're trying to do, or it doesn't help you build on your business, then it's not really important. So requirements for successful marketing information systems include: it should be objective. All right, it should be looking for what we really want it to look for, and not worry about other things, other components, or other issues. It should be systematic. In other words, it should always be on. It should always be working, and it, once again, should be working on the data that we want to collect. And lastly, it should be useful, because if we're getting a bunch of data that doesn't serve a purpose and doesn't help us, why expend the time and energy and money and resources to do it? So, the next thing was types of data, and there's a couple of different things under the types of data that we can use. We can get data from a lot of different sources. The first one is the secondary data. And that may be data that we purchase from another firm or get from another business or a sister company. It's information that's already been conducted. It may help us some, it may not, but it's data that we can readily get to take a look at. In contrast to primary data, and that's one that is basically looking directly at the issues that we're concerned with, and the things that we need to know for sure. Now, you say, well, why would we get secondary data from anybody? Well, it's usually free or inexpensive. It's already been done, so we don't have to expend any labor on it. And it might be able to help us. It may not be exactly what we're looking for, but it's readily available and easy to use data. Then we've got internal, and we've mentioned that before, internal data that we get from our current customer base, and we could look at sales records, we could look at past surveys, and things like that. And then external, there's a lot of places for people to get information from external sources: trade association, travelers bureaus, chamber of commerce, different periodicals and trade organizations. I remember back in the day when we were going to start our first restaurant, we went to the Chamber of Commerce in the area and started looking at the different demographic issues, the travel patterns of people, how far or how many people would pass our restaurant on a daily basis. So there's a lot of information out there, and most of that's free. Different government agencies also have a lot of data that you can tap into. And then there are companies that you can go, like syndicated services, that will collect data and then charge you for it. They collect general data on a number of things, and you can tap in and pay for some of those things. And of course, if it's the data you want, it's almost priceless. You say, should I pay for data? If it's the best way to get it and it helps your business, then yes. The marketing research process is pretty much the last chapter, or last part of this chapter. And it's really pretty simple, because it starts off with define a problem. Because if you don't want to know something, if you're not planning on going in another direction, if you're not planning on putting a new product out, if your sales aren't down for one reason or another, you have to define the problem. And I think they use problem here in a broad sense. I think a problem could also be the same thing as you're looking at a new opportunity. But you got to define where you want to go, or the issue that you're dealing with. Next, you have to plan the research. And there's several different types of research listed in the text. But more importantly to me, it's just you just remember the steps here, and that would be plan what type of research you're going to do. Then next would be collect the data. And this could be surveys, this could be test marketing, this could be interviews, comment cards. And that's one of the reasons why we do a comment card in this class, is to get you familiar with that kind of data collection. And then we're going to do sampling. We're going to send it out there, and we're going to, see who answers us and what answers they give. And it's important to note is who are you going to give these surveys to? And we talked about internal and external, but there's some terms in the book regarding populations and samples and such. And a population is basically your entire group, the whole target market that you're going to look at. Then you might look at a sample, which is a subset or smaller group of the population. If you wanted to know, say we take the area that I'm in now, and you wanted to know how many couples, married couples between the ages of 30 and 40 had stayed in a hotel within the last 10 years, that's obviously a huge amount of data. All right. Conversely, we could take that down and we could, look at a smaller sample of that, maybe a smaller number, maybe 100 respondents, or for, say everybody that lives north of this part of town is going to be our sample. So the problem with taking a whole population is sometimes it can be so big, it can be way too time consuming and too costly to get data from. The problem with taking a sample of a whole population is you could be adding some type of a bias in there. And a bias may be something that leads somebody to answer a certain way. For example, we go back to where someone lives. A lot of the older people in this town and lower income people live to the north part of town. The more affluent people live on the south. So if I would just say we're going to divide the city in half and everybody on the north end is going to be in our sample and we'll exclude all the people on the south side, that could give us a false amount of data because it's different, just different demographics in it. So you got to be careful when you do the small. But back to the research process. After we get the data, you have to analyze it. What is it telling you? And then finally prepare a final report on what you should do. Sometimes when you get the data, you'll decide we should move forward. Sometimes we shouldn't. And sometimes you still won't have enough information. And the last little bit of this section was on ethics. And basically it just talks about the rights and obligations of a couple of different classes. First of all, the respondents. Those people that are going to be filling out the surveys or the comment cards. And basically they have an ethical right or an ethical pledge to be honest about it. If you're going to fill out a survey card, you should be honest in your what's happened, your beliefs, experiences you've had, how you really feel about it. If you're not going to be honest about it, you probably shouldn't do it. Then the people that are handling the research, the people that are sending out the comment cards once again and collecting the information, they've got an obligation too to be honest and forthright with what they're doing. They need to treat the respondents in a proper manner, and the data they collect should be unaltered, and it should try to do the job that the people that commission the survey or study should do. You can imagine that every once in a while you'll see something on the news in these studies where fraudulent data was obtained. It's big business. Give false data to a company to get them to do something that they probably wouldn't normally do. And then finally, the rights and obligations of clients who pay for that data. They have a right to get what they're paying for, people to be honest and to treat them fairly. So that is basically information marketing systems. It's a long chapter, kind of technical, but I just want you to remember the key points of it, of basically how we get data and why we get data. And I think that will serve your purposes. All right, thanks, and have a good day. Bye.